Why, hello there, YouTube, and welcome back to A History of Who. I am Davros, and I am a Whovian, and we're on episode 10, or part 10 now of this series, A History of Who. So, this episode we're going to be discussing probably the golden age of the modern revival, that is the David Tennant years in Doctor Who. So, let's get started. So, after one series, Christopher Eccleston departed the role of the Doctor, and we were introduced to the Regeneration and David Tennant. So, yeah, after this, it was announced that the show would return for a Christmas special at Christmas time. And for a good while, we, the audience, were wondering what was going to happen. Until Children in Need Night, 2005, we were treated to a 10-minute special where we see the aftermath of the transition from Doctor to Doctor. And in this, it was just a 10-minute scene where the Doctor and Rose are in the TARDIS, and the Doctor is exploring his new appearance. And Rose, she's bewildered. She's wondering what the hell is going on, and thinks at first it's an imposter. Something's happened to the Doctor. But, old audiences, they knew what was going on. But for us, the modern ones, we were still getting our heads around this. And then, after that special, we were then had to wait at least another month until Christmas Day, 2005. We got the Christmas Invasion, where David Tennant made his first proper Doctor Who debut, where for most of the episode he was, well, asleep, recovering from his regeneration, and for most of the episode we followed the human characters like the Prime Minister Harriet Jones and Rose Tyler not knowing what to do because she doesn't know what's happened to the Doctor. Why has he changed? Why has he done this? And yeah, we see, we don't see much of David Tennant until like the final 20 minutes of the episode, where he recovers from his regeneration and saves the day on Christmas with his pajamas. Well, some pajamas that he's borrowed. Well, pajamas that he's borrowed from a guy called Howard that Jackie was seeing. And has a duel with a Sigarax leader who was threatening the human race with an invasion. And of course, the Doctor was victorious, but in the duel, he had his hand cut off. But because he was so early in his regeneration, he could grow it back. Now, that hand would go on to return. You see, because that hand was found by Captain Jack Harkness, who put it in a jar and made it his Doctor detector. And we'll get to that in a moment about, Captain Jack. So, yeah, David Tennant's 10th Doctor recovered from his regeneration, celebrated Christmas after the Sigarax were, well, destroyed because Prime Minister Harriet Jones ordered it. And then the 10th Doctor got his look. Now, the 10th Doctor, he always wore the trench coat, and he would always wear a brown striped suit or a blue suit every now and then, and a pair of sneakers. Now, there were at the time discussions of what the 10th Doctor could wear, but then, out of all places, there was an episode of Parkinson where Jamie Oliver went onto the show wearing a suit and sneakers, and David Tennant showed Russell T Davies this and said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." So yeah, they went with that look, the suit and the sneakers, which became the 10th Doctor's look. And he would have his long trench coat on, and every now and then he would take off his coat to, really, run round and be fit. Because the 10th Doctor, he did a lot of running. He was quite physically fit, the 10th Doctor. So, yeah, and even though Eccleston was the Doctor that introduced my generation to Doctor Who, David Tennant became, my Doctor, our Doctor. And he stayed on for more than one series. So, yeah, we had the Doctor and Rose going out on weekly adventures. Again, for 13 weeks, we would be treated to adventures where we would come across, the, cat people and Queen Victoria and a werewolf. But then, in the third episode, we were introduced, well, the old audiences were reintroduced to Sarah Jane Smith. Now we know, well, people knew that Sarah Jane Smith was a popular companion that travelled with the third and fourth Doctors, and she was aware of the regeneration. And actress Elizabeth Sladen returned to the role after 30 years. And, turns out that while she was stuck on Earth, she became her own person and started to investigate strange goings on in places. And she crossed paths with the Doctor. And this, as well, for old audiences, kind of let us know that the classic series is still canon. That all happened. Yeah, it's series 2 and it's revived, but this is the same show it was all those years ago. So, for a while, Sarah Jane Smith kind of tied in the classic and the modern eras of the show, which I thought was great. And Sarah Jane would go on to become a favourite, and she would eventually get her own series in the Whoniverse. Of course, Series 1, they were like, let's bring back the Autons, let's bring back the Daleks, classic monsters. They thought for Series 2, let's bring back another classic favourite, the second most popular Doctor Who monster, the Cybermen. So in Series 2, the Cybermen returned, and in a 2-part adventure as well, where the Doctor was stranded in a parallel Earth, but soon battled the Cybermen and went on his merry way after the TARDIS got fixed. And of course, Mickey, who had gone on to become a companion of the 10th Doctor, and Rose's former boyfriend, he decided to stay in that universe as his variant was, well, killed, and he decided to fight and battle in that world and defend it and become his own man instead of the tin dog, as they put it. Also, K9 made a return in that series as well, in the same episode, School Reunion, where it was explained in a one-off spin-off back in the 80s that the Doctor gave K9 as a gift to Sarah Jane, or a copy of him. And we see him return again in that one. So we see some classic Who there again. And of course, we got an episode every week, which was fine and fun. We had one episode which was a Doctor Light episode where we got funny man Peter Kay in there with a guest actor Mark Warren and many others. That wasn't considered a good episode, but whether it's found its footing in time, I'm not sure. But that monster was designed by a 12-year-old as part of a Blue Peter competition. So yeah, in the 2-part finale, we find the Doctor finally arrives in Torchwood. Now, another thing throughout this modern era with the classic series, we'd always have a story arc which would connect everything. Now, as I forgot to mention in the previous episode, we had Bad Wolf. Now, like see on my shirt here, it says Bad Wolf. It's a TARDIS shirt, thought I'd wear it for that. So yeah, we found that Bad Wolf followed the Doctor and Rose throughout time and space, and we're wondering what is it, and we find out that it is a connection sent out by the TARDIS and Rose or something. We get more of an explanation to that later on down the line, but that's what the catchphrase followed them round throughout the universe, Bad Wolf. In Series 2, it was Torchwood. Now, Torchwood was mentioned in the first part of the 2-part Series 1 finale, Bad Wolf, where in a futuristic Weakest Link, Anne Robin, the android, voiced by Anne Robinson, said a question of what famous institute, and the answer was Torchwood. But then throughout Series 2, Torchwood followed us round ever since the second episode, when Queen Victoria, after encountering the Doctor and the werewolf, made, the house that they were in, where that happened, was called Torchwood Manor. She proposed an institute called Torchwood, which would be outside the government, beyond the police. And the 21st century is when everything changes, and we got to be ready. Of course, this 2-part finale was set in Torchwood. And in that 2-part finale, we saw the return of the Cybermen, where the parallel Earth was colliding with that Earth. And we also saw a void ship, which contained the Daleks, the Cult of Skaro, where we see one Dalek that is black, called Dalek Sec. Also, all the other Daleks had names like Dalek Just, Dalek They, and Dalek Khan, which were the Cult of Skaro, which kept a ship called the Genesis Ark, which was a prison ship, which was bigger on the inside and had Daleks in it. So yeah, the Daleks returned once again for the big finale where Russell T Davies kind of fulfilled a childhood like ambition where because kids would always buy toys of Daleks and Cybermen fighting each other. Russell T Davies thought, let's have the Daleks and the Cybermen fight it out on screen, and that's exactly what they did. And after a action-filled finale, the Doctor had to part ways with Rose as she got trapped in the parallel Earth. And yeah, it was a heartbreaking finale at the end, and yeah, we were treated to, well, yeah, that's what happened. Of course, that finale would, you know, plant the seed for a potential spin-off, and that spin-off later that year we got Torchwood, which was a spin-off of Doctor Who, set in Cardiff, where we find out that Torchwood has different sections, like Torchwood 1 was Canary Wharf, Torchwood 2 is in Glasgow, Torchwood 4 is Lost. This series followed Torchwood 3 in Cardiff, where they monitored the Rift, a weak point in time and space, which again was planted in motion in the series 1 episode The Unquiet Dead, and then revisited again in Boomtown, where alien activity comes out and stuff. And leading that was Captain Jack Harkness, who we found out used his vortex manipulator to go back in time to try and find the Doctor, but ended up in the Victorian age and couldn't go any further because his vortex manipulator ran out of power. So he had to live out those days. But he discovered as well that he couldn't die. He did everything, and in the end he got the message, he's the man that could never die. And he then ended up being recruited by Torchwood and ended up working for Torchwood before becoming the leader of Torchwood 3. And we would follow a team of people each week, you know, Gwen, Owen, Yanto, Tosh, and you know, we would follow that team every week. Torchwood was a bit different though, because it was a lot darker. It was a lot darker and was not family friendly. It contained sexual content, strong language, and more graphic violence than that you wouldn't get away with in Doctor Who, including one episode with cannibals. Very violent. But yeah, that spin-off would last for 4 series, and before it would be unfortunately cancelled in 2011. But it had 4 series, and in fact, the best series for me are series 1 and 2. Series 3, which was a mini series, was all right. Series 4 was okay, but yeah. But anyway, of New Year's Day that year, 2007, the Sarah Jane Adventures premiered its first episode, Invasion of the Bane, where Elizabeth Sladen returned to lead in this spin-off. And then later that year in 2007, we would get the Sarah Jane Adventures, which would last for, 5 series until Elizabeth Sladen's sad passing in 2011. And yeah, we were treated to a spin-off that was more child-friendly, more aimed at kids. It's hard to believe that Torchwood shares that same universe with the Sarah Jane Adventures and Doctor Who, but it did. So yeah, we got 2 successful spin-offs as the 10th Doctor's years were running. Over time, the 10th Doctor in 2006 returned for a Christmas special with Catherine Tate as a guest star, who would be his companion for that episode, and from there on it would always be a different companion every Christmas special. And Catherine Tate would go on to be playing Donna Noble, who would also go on to be a companion full-time in Series 4, and go on to be the most important woman in the universe. Series 3 came along and we had a new companion for the first time in the revived era. Well, yeah, a new companion. Martha Jones, played by Freema Agyeman, who had appeared in Doctor Who previously in an episode, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. Well, Army of Ghosts, where she would revealed to be playing Martha's cousin Adiola, which they addressed in her first episode. So yeah, eventually she tagged along with the Doctor, and even though the Doctor wasn't keen at first, he was just taking on a trip through time and space to say thank you, she grew on him, and she, helped him out. They encountered the Daleks again, the Cult of Skaro, they encountered Shakespeare, they came across a lot of stuff, even hiding from a family where the Doctor was human for a while, but then soon fixed. And then in the series finale, which was 3 parts, we got the return of Captain Jack Harkness. After the end of series 1 of Torchwood, we hear the sound of the TARDIS and his Doctor detector, the hand in the jar, going off, which Captain Jack kept. We see him return to Doctor Who, where he then goes on this 3-part adventure in the 3rd series, where they go to the end of the universe, find Professor Yana, discover that he's a Time Lord, and earlier on in that series, the Face of Boe, who again was a reoccurring character in series 1, 2, and 3, he told the Doctor that he is not alone, and we find out that the human Professor Yana is a Time Lord, and none other than the Doctor's arch nemesis, the Master, who fled the Time War and made himself human to hide, as he was resurrected by the Time Lords for the Time War. So they explain that. And of course, for a little while in that episode, we saw Derek Jacobi play the Master before he regenerated into John Sim on screen. And John Sim, recently off the hit show Life on Mars, joined Doctor Who as the Master, and Series 1, they were like, let's bring back the Daleks. Series 2, the Cybermen. Series 3, the Master. So the Doctor was no longer the last of the Time Lords, and we got a big action-packed finale with the Master. But of course, he would meet his untimely demise, where he would die and refuse to regenerate, and the Doctor would be on his own again as the last of the Time Lords. He would then go on an adventure with the Titanic, a space replica one from another planet, where he would have to then save that from crashing on Earth after an insurance scam from the CEO, Max Capricorn. But then in the spring of 2008, we got treated to David Tennant's final full series as the Doctor, where we had Catherine Tate come back as Donna Noble, his companion. So series 3, as well, as I almost forgot to mention, we had the words Vote Saxon appear, or Mr. Saxon, mentioned throughout the present times and that would reveal to be the Master, which was clever writing from Russell. Series 4, we got like the bees are disappearing and Pyrovilia. Series 4, the Doctor took Donna to Pompeii, where we find out he actually caused that fixed point in time. We see, the Doctor find the Ood again. The Ood come back. We get another classic monster return, the Centaurans, as well in this era. Redesigned but still recognisable. We even see, the Doctor have a daughter, a giant unicorn, a giant wasp. We see the Vashta Narada in a 2-part episode. And then in Series 4 finale, we see the return of the Daleks again. So at this point, the Daleks had appeared in every series. Now, for a while, a lot of us kind of thought this is a deal they've done with the Terry Nation estate to use the Daleks at least once every year in a series, because we got that, didn't we? But apparently wasn't so. But the Daleks came back. And in this 4th series finale, we got the return of the Daleks' creator, Davros, now played by Julian Bleach, who has gone on to still play Davros. And in that finale, we got the whole 3 shows, Torchwood, the Sarah Jane Adventures, all cross over in a big Avengers Assembled styled, finale before the Avengers were even a thing. And we got a big explosive finale there with the Daleks and all his companions over time. This, of course, was probably Russell T Davies wrapping his first era up, because he announced that he was leaving the show, and Stephen Moffat, who wrote for the show, was going to take over as showrunner. So yeah, after 3 series, David Tennant didn't make any more, but in 2008 we got our regular Christmas special, and then 2009 we had a gap year, but were treated to 4 specials, live action. We had an animated special called the Infinite Quest in 2007, which was part of a serial that aired on like the show Totally Doctor Who. And then we had Dreamland, which was another animated special taking place in between the Waters of Mars and the End of Time, which was on Interactive before having a feature-length finale. But also we see David Tennant in these 4 final specials, where he would be told it's returning through the darkness and he will knock 4 times, thinking it would be the Master, and us thinking it was the Master, it turned out to be Donna's grandfather Wilf knocking 4 times. So yeah, David Tennant's Doctor knew his time was up. I mean, before that, in the series 4 finale, David Tennant's Doctor did start to regenerate, but channeled his energy into his severed hand, which then developed into the Meta-Crisis Doctor, where Donna would become a Dr. Donna, and he had to erase her memory to save her. And then the Meta-Crisis Doctor, who was part human, had one heart, and the aging part would never regenerate, stayed with Rose. Yeah, David Tennant's Doctor, this time there was no getting out of it. Now, at the time when he actually used the regeneration to heal himself but didn't change his face, we just thought, oh, then the regeneration's cancelled. But future showrunner at that time, Stephen Moffat, would go on to count that as an actual used regeneration. Yeah, which again will be another episode for another time, probably the next episode. So yeah, New Year's Day 2010, David Tennant's era came to a tear-jerking end, where he said those sad words, "I don't want to go," after making a noble sacrifice to save Wilfred and absorb all that radio energy from the Vinvoce tank, which our antagonist Joshua Natesmith was using and the Master used. John Simm's Master was absolutely bonkers, but this would not be the last time we'd see him. No. So yeah, New Year's Day 2010, it all came to an end, the first part of the revival era, and my Doctor was gone. But 2010 was a new decade, a new era, and we had another new Doctor, where he would go on to tell us that bow ties are cool.